So today we're with Rory Parks, who is the head coach.
You nearly forgot my name there.
Who is the head coach of the Athlone Boxing Club.
Yes.
Rory, welcome.
Thank
you.
very
We're
much.
going to talk all things boxing today.
Excellent.
I know the boxing club is quite unique in its location.
Absolutely, it is.
Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Oh, how did it come about? Well, the club itself is actually based in the basement of St Peter's Church in the centre of Athlone. So the club itself came about 20 years ago, actually, this year. I started the club with a few people that you might know, and we started it up in McCarthy Hall in the Batteries. And between one thing and another, paying for rent and so on, we ended up having to move the club down into the basement of the church. The basement at the time was the Scouts were using it, but the Scouts sort of came to an end, and that little area underneath the church sort of became vacant. And so I went to the priest, and I knew it was there, and the priest, I think it was Canon Divine at the time, and he saw the need for it, and he thought it was a great idea, and he let us in, and and that's it. We started training. We set up the boxing club and started training underneath the church.
How long are you there now?
Yeah, well, 19 years old, but 20 years, the club itself is 20 years in existence, and we're 19 years under the church. So,
wow.
Yeah, and we're working hard. We've got a very small premises. It's a very unique premises. There's not any other places around Ireland like it. However, it is the basement of a church, and we struggle to attract other clubs down for tournaments and so on, because we've got no change of facilities, we've got no toilets. At the end of the day, we are in the basement of a church, and maybe one time that was okay. It was like, when we were younger and you were playing a football match or whatever, and you were togging out at the side of a pitch, in your car or whatever, those days are gone. Most clubs nowadays, I would say probably the majority of clubs nowadays, in whatever sport that you're in, have pretty decent facilities with regards to where people can go, they can change, they can have a shower, and it's very important these days that you have that. So with that in mind, we've done an awful lot of work over the last couple of years. I have another guy with me there now. He helps me out a lot. Joe Ward is his name, professional boxer. Joe himself is a very, very busy man, and with his own professional career. But when we get, when he's around and we get back to it, we do an awful lot of work with regards to getting our new premises. So only recently we received planning permission for a brand new build down beside the soccer stadium in Athlone. So just between the swimming pool and the soccer stadium, there's a piece of ground. I think in front of us, Athlone Squash Club are building a new premises, and just after that, then just on the same piece of ground, the boxing club have been given a piece of land.
Brilliant.
So we're currently in negotiations around getting the lease sorted out on that land.
Wow.
And it's very important for us. So that'll give us what we need then to go and get grants and so on, sports capital grants and so on. But we're really a club that's looking forward now at this stage. We need to get a new premises. We need to modernise, as you know, in most combat sports, you need to modernise the way you're doing things, constantly updating, with regards to the actual sport itself. It's like everything goes through a sort of metamorphosis where things change, training techniques change, everything changes. So, and along with that, our premises has to change too.
Yeah.
We're pretty restricted what we can do in there, but we're very, very lucky still that we still have a place. The club is still open after 20 years,
which is
and every
amazing.
year we produce multiple Irish boxing champions. And I'm very, very happy with this, because I know that there's no other club in Athlone or close to Athlone at all that will produce the amount of champions that we produce in Athlone Boxing Club. And we've got a very, very dedicated bunch of young people that train there, and they train very, very hard. Because boxing, as you know, it's a very difficult sport, it's a very competitive sport. And young people that train in boxing need an awful lot of training, they need an awful lot of work, they need a huge amount of input from their coaches. And they buy into it, they buy into that philosophy, they buy into those values, they buy into the ethics of the club, and they've got great drive to succeed. And like every other sport, success follows success. So it feeds down that drive and motivation you see from the older team, feeds down into that younger team. And we're always trying to catch up with each other. It's great to see the competition within the club. Some of the sparring sessions, even in there between our own kids, you actually would think there is titles on the line with the way they spar each other in there, So we've got a very, very dedicated bunch of young kids coming through right now. And they've won a lot so far, and again, every season, as I said to them, is a big season. Everybody has their goals and targets, everybody's looking to win things, and that's where they rely on their coaches to teach them and to teach them right. and to get them over the line with their aspirations.
And how are you in regards, say, the weight divisions now? Where would you have you got all weight divisions?
Yeah, well, mostly, like I had a generation that has literally just moved on, and they would have been the older boxers. They would have been the guys into their late teens, early 20s, and they would have boxed sort of that elite level boxing. So they would have been going up to super heavyweights, 91 plus kgs.
Right.
But like they've sort of moved on now at this stage, and I had middleweights, I had all those people, but I've sort of dropped back to a younger group of people now. So the club, like I said, is going through sort of like a metamorphosis. I'm bringing in all these other youngsters who are already very successful in the sport. They've already won multiple titles, and that new group is going to really going to be the seeds of the club for the next 10, 20 years, you know. And even now, I can see their brothers coming in, and I can see their sisters coming in. So, we're gone back to even 6-year-olds coming into the club right now.
Wow. And
yeah, some of these kids are really, really hyper for their age, and it's fantastic to see 6-year-olds with such athletic ability, and the drive to succeed. And I'm really happy with what the direction the club is going right now.
And with the whole Katie Taylor thing, did you find there was a little bit more of an influx of females that would start to come in?
No,
or is that still quite slow?
I didn't know. I think one time when Katie was boxing amateur, there was a bit more of a drive, there was a bit more of a bite on it. I think young females do look up to Katie Taylor. She's a fantastic sports person. I think she's the most decorated sports person in Irish sporting history, and well, she should be, because she's an amazing athlete and an amazing ambassador for Ireland. But on the ground, I haven't really seen it. We did have our own females that came through. Some fantastic females came through the club over the years and won absolutely everything. But look, I'm like what I'm saying. I'm gone back to the beginning nearly again with a whole new group, and I actually have a young female there. She's only 11 years of age, and she'll be going. This is her first year of competition, and I think she's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I think she's an amazing talent. I think her feet are fantastic. Her hands are fantastic. She's got super movement. And she's got a great boxing brain on her head for her age. She assesses situations really, really quickly. Her shot selection is very, very good. She's able to get in, get out, move, pivot, turn, slip, roll. She has it all, this girl. I just hope that she'll stay at it, because I've seen all these before in my days. So 20 years is a long time to see, different groups of people coming through and different generations coming through. And I really, really hope she stays at it, because I think the sky's the limit for this girl. But look, fingers crossed she'll stay at it. And there's other little kids there as well that are coming through, and they're going to be phenomenal. Some phenomenal talents coming through, like there really is, So we're always going to be there. The Athlone Boxing Club is always going to be there. It's always going to be mentioned. It's always going to be one of those pivotal sports in Athlone that people say, God, there's Athlone Boxing Club again, making champions. A new generation come through, new champions. It's not like some of the other clubs, and I'm not comparing us to other clubs, but when you look at other clubs, teams get older and they move on, and there's not a lot that comes up that replaces them. Yeah. But a lot of teams in GAA, soccer, rugby and so on, they've got great community buy-in, and they're very well funded, Unfortunately, boxing is just one of those sports that actually isn't funded. It's funded really, really poorly, unfortunately.
It's strange, because we actually, in the Olympics, we will always win medals.
We will always win medals in the Olympics.
And it doesn't seem to be, it's like they kind of seem to, sure, we're going to win anyway.
Yeah, so there's an expectation that the boxers will bring home medals. But you don't see that on the ground. And what you don't see is, you don't see a buy-in from government level. Like if you look at, say, golf, for instance, I think at the last round of funding, I think golf was granted something like 120 million, 1.2 million or something. But for whatever structures, and that'll be a professional sport. You go to golf clubs around the country, they're very well supported. The green fees are really, really high, and you get a certain clientele to go to that, and money doesn't seem to be an object with regards to the conditions that they have and the facilities that they have. But go to boxing clubs, and you have people like myself who volunteer, give up everything, and we're training underneath a church. Do you know what I mean? And we put everything into it. We put our life into this. But the IABA, the Irish Amateur Boxing Association, only gets 835,000 to run for the whole year,
country,
for the whole country.
Geez.
So you're looking at 352 boxing clubs in Ireland, which is a huge number of boxing clubs. And that whole association has to be ran with 835 or 825,000, which is abysmal really compared to other sports. Yet the expectation always falls back on the boxers to bring home the medals. And that's what Ireland has been famed for. But we send out teams to the Olympics every year. or every 4 years, whatever the cycle is, usually every 4 years. We'll send out teams to the Olympics every 4 years, you know, and we're nearly guaranteed every year that the boxers will bring home medals.
Absolutely.
I know of late the rowers are starting to develop and they're starting to get a lot better. And then we might be lucky, we might get somebody else in athletics or something.
So jumping or athletics or something like that.
Equestrian or something like that might get us something. And we'll all be lighting and we'd all be jumping. However, there's an expectation going out, well, they might do well and they might do well, but the boxers will bring home medals.
Yeah.
But it's never reflected. No. You know, it's never reflected in the funding that goes towards the sport to help out the grassroots clubs that are 3 or 4 nights a week, you know, training, weekends sparring, weekends in competitions, and then have to sort of ply their trade in really bad, you know what I mean, places that don't have changing facilities, no toilets, no showers, and it's difficult to attract in people into that then. Yeah. Because parents nowadays, there is an expectation, you know, when they look at all these other sports who work with children and have great inroads into schools and so on, and have all these training programs set up for children, they have great facilities, fantastic facilities, and the majority of that money has come to them through the government. However, for some reason, and this is a real bone of contention for boxing people, that's sort of held back, you know what I mean, for the amateur boxers.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
No,
it really doesn't make sense. So anyways, with regards to that, we will be going out and we will be doing our level best to try to get money to put this new club in place and give these young people a facility that they can be proud of, that'll be there for the next 30, 40, 50 years, that everyone will always know, this is the building where the boxers are, this is all the champions come out of this building here, and they'll have the facilities, they'll have the changing rooms, they'll have the showers, they'll have the toilets, and they'll have proper infrastructure and proper equipment that they can train and reach their full potential.
So I suppose for the amateur box for kids growing up, so the pinnacle would be, obviously we have the Leinster Championship. That would be the big one here.
Yeah, well, the Leinster Championships basically is a stepping stone to the All-Irelands. So right. to get to the All-Ireland Boxing Championships, you need to be the provincial champion. So the key, so the entry key to get to the All-Irelands is the provincial championships. And that's where an awful amount of effort goes in. It has to go in because you go to Leinster Championships and you have nearly 100 boxing clubs in Leinster alone. So if you don't win that, you're not going to the All-Irelands, okay? Right. So there's a huge amount of work has to go into your boxers to get out of Leinster. There's 4 provinces in Ireland. You have Ulster, Connacht, Munster and Leinster. And then you have the 2 big ones. You have Belfast and Dublin. So they call it the Antrim and Dublin. So you have 6 sort of boards altogether, provincial boards. Yeah. Because there's so many clubs in Dublin and Belfast, they sort of have their own. And then the rest of the provinces box it out, okay? So when you go to the All-Irelands then, you're only ever guaranteed about 4 or 5 maybe in your weight. But in Leinster, the sky's the limit. You know, you've got 100 clubs all competing at different levels in there, different ages and weights. So sometimes the entries are absolutely huge. You could have 13, 14, 15 boxers in your weight. So we really work really hard to try to get our boxers out of Leinster. And if you get them out of Leinster, well then you know, look, when I go to the All-Irelands, we probably have maybe 4, 5 or 6 in a weight, which usually give you a quarter-final or a semi-final. So you're in with a shot.
Right.
You know, you're always in with a shot. But the hard part is getting out of Leinster. You got to get out of there first. You know what I mean? And, you know, to be fair, you know, the standard of boxing in Leinster is very, very good. So if you do get out of Leinster, it'll be tough on other clubs trying to beat you in Dublin then at the national championships, because they know the guys that are coming out of Leinster, huge amount of clubs in Leinster, you know, lots of big towns and cities in it, and the standard is very, very high. So when you win your All Ireland, then is that the road to the Olympics? Is that how it works? Does it? No, not at youth level. So you have they start off at 11 years of age and they box up to about 16. So they're called boy ones or girl ones. That's just for 11. Okay, they start off at that lowest level and they work up to, say, youth 2 it's called. So they're the 16-year-olds. After that, then you move into a higher category. So you go up to the under-19s, the under-23s. And if you start performing really, really well and consistent with your performances up there when you start winning things, then the elite team in Dublin that's based in Abbottstown in Dublin, Team Ireland basically. Is this like the high performance? This is like the high performance thing. So they start keeping an eye then on what's happening here. There's also youth internationals going on. So they'd already, you know you from different championships to be watching the youths. Okay. And there's youth internationals going on. So if you have a bit of experience built up through those youth internationals, and you get over sort of that youth too and start moving up into that under 19, under 23, seniors, elite, start looking at those competitions, well then you're putting yourself in the shop front.
Right.
To enter into the high performance unit and to be taken on then. If you're good enough, and places are very, very small, you can only put one person on a team, and the pathways then is you go in, you will train with the high performance team. If you're good enough, you'll be brought to internationals, big international tournaments and so on, and then the qualifiers come for the European Championships and the World Championships.
Oh, okay.
That's the gateway then into the Olympics. So Ireland senior team, who would be the elites, they will pick their strongest, say, 12 boxers over different weights, male and female, and our females really represent the country really, really well. And right now we probably have better females, believe it or not, than we do of males. The male boxing is just going through a little bit of a lull at the moment.
Right.
We don't have the sort of the talented male boxers that we once had. Look, it's like everything, it swings and roundabouts, like I said, what I mean, about other different sports and so on. So at that stage then you have all the girls who are pretty competitive and pretty good right now. They've got a good team of girls, and then you'll have the males. So they will look at European Championships and look at the World Boxing Championships. And basically what they are is they're qualifiers for the Olympics.
Oh, okay.
So if you win them, obviously you go. But usually the way they have it done out, if you get to the semi-finals, usually good enough to get you seeded or placed, that you'll be brought to the Olympics. Brilliant. So it's a long road to get to Olympics. Yeah. It's a difficult road. It's a massive commitment. If you're up on the high performance thing, I mean, boxing is your life basically. You're practically a pro boxer. You're training 6-7 days a week.
It's a lonely life. Well, I know you're with your team, but you don't have time for other things.
No, you don't have a lot of time for anything, to tell you the truth. You're up there and you're training hard, and you might get home once or twice a week. You spend most of your time living in hotels in Dublin.
It's not an easy life. Not to be controversial and not to put anything out there, but what's the judging like? Like, we know we've seen certain things like Michael Conlon and people like that, things that have happened where just blatantly robbed. Is that a thing? Is that, I mean, I'm not saying it is a thing here, but is it a thing?
It's sometimes? A thing. It's always going to be a thing, and it's never going to change.
Right.
And that's unfortunate, but that's a fact. Even when you go back to the grassroots, like the Leinster Boxing Championships, like we spoke about, it's like everything else, they find it hard to get judges, they find it hard to get referees,
Right.
So, and then they might get people from an area close enough to where there's a boxing club, and they're going to know them, and so they're going to be a little bit biased, and if the fight is anywhere close, they're going to give to the guy that they know.
Yeah.
And that goes on throughout the whole sport.
So how do you find that then in case, especially for youngsters, where you've outboxed your opponent, you've won, you don't get a decision, disheartening? Do you find that some kids just can't take that and give up?
Absolutely. It's very disheartening. It's very disheartening for the coach as well, because he knows the work he's put into that boxer. He knows how good that boxer is, and you don't have to be a boxing person to be standing there to know if someone won a fight or not. Obviously some fights are closer than others, but I've often seen fights where you sort of had one winner and then the decision went the other way. And it's very disheartening for the coach. It's very, very hard then on the boxer, because they have to sort of re-motivate themselves to get going again when they know that there's after been, this is very unjust what's after happening to them, and that's not fair on them, because they've put an awful lot of work into it, and they know the work to put in to win. And then when that's taken away from them through politics, through one club knowing another club a bit better, or, some guy refereeing, thinks, I like that club, or we spar them and they're friends of ours, and then the decision goes the other way. It's not very fair. And I have seen boxers over the years walk away from the sport because of it. I have put boxers in my car and drove them home the whole way from Dublin, and they did not speak 2 words on the way home. That's how difficult. That's how difficult it is. To put their life into it, they train so hard, and the psychology behind it is, before you get in there to box, your psychology needs to be so strong. You need to have a huge amount of self-belief. You need to have an ego, but a controllable ego, that you think, I'm going to win this. I'm the best. I'm going to win this. So if that's stripped away from you, it's very, very hard then to take a step back and then rebuild all that stuff again to move on to the next level. And try to build that back up again when you had yourself told that all that self-belief that you had inserted into you, all the positive sort of motivational stuff that the coach had put into you, and when that gets stripped back from you, well then it's a very lonely place to be for a young person, psychologically. And then that needs to be built back up again and put back into that person to rebuild them to put them back out there again to perform to the best of their ability. And the problem is, if they get a few really, really bad results, then you're in trouble. Because then you're going to lose that talent. Then they're going to say, this sport is not for me. It's impossible to get a decision in it. Am I going to stay in it or am I not? Or do I have another route to go with the sport? Yeah. And usually they take the other and say, no, not for me. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep training like this. I can't keep putting everything I have into this, because it is actually psychologically damaging for them.
Absolutely.
And to walk away from the sport.
Yeah.
And just talking of the sport itself, no, I mean, for someone who'd be a fan, I suppose for boxing, the heavyweights were always the big. They were the big ones, the Tysons and stuff like that. They were the exciting ones. Now I know if you've ever watched a good middleweight, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But when you look at, say, modern day heavyweights, the way it's gone, like the people who were in it, the way, like the decisions, and then we've like with Sky, it's probably with Sky, they have to have 3 fights, and he'll lose that one. Like. Is that damaged the sport in any way?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's very much choreographed, boxing nowadays. You might have a heavyweight. Take Anthony Joshua, for instance, off the top of my head. Anthony Joshua had a particularly protected route when he got to that highest level. So before, what I mean by that is, before he actually got to box at the very highest level against the very best that was at that weight, he had about 15 sort of dud fights where he practically fought nobody.
Kind of journeymen.
Journeymen at the start, and then fought guys that were either at the top and they were getting too old, they were sort of leaning off, or other guys that just to make up the numbers.
Right.
You know, but when Joshua was actually tested, he failed all the major tests. I know he won his world title, but he bet Klitschko. Now, Klitschko was in his 40s. And fair play to Klitschko for keeping it going at that age. Absolutely. Because the demands on his body, you know what I mean, very, very difficult and so on. But whenever Anthony Joshua, and there's lots of different examples, went in against a good boxer, he never bet them. He had a very short amateur career. He won an Olympic gold. He bet a guy called Camarelli from Italy to win an Olympic gold. And again, when we talk about bad judging and we say, you know, what's unjust and what is just, everybody would say that Joshua should never have got that result against Camarelli. However, it was the London Olympic Games.
Oh, okay.
So it was in his home country.
Yeah.
Do you know? And Camarelli, to be fair to him, already had an Olympic medal, won gold at heavyweight. And he was a super talent. Do you know? So this is how... So he then signs pro. He goes under Eddie Hearn, whoever goes under, and he basically gets a protected caseload, if you like, and off he goes up 15, 16 fights until he's ready to go for a world title. They wait to see, okay, well, who's at world level now, but sort of fading. Klitschko, he's in his 40s. He's nothing else to go for here. Let's give this dude 20 million, and Anthony Joshua becomes the champion.
All right.
Anthony Joshua never tested, goes out against a Mexican guy.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, goes out against a Mexican guy.
Yeah,
Mexican guy, not fancied by anybody, but was a bit of a banger, which means he can hit hard. Landed a couple of left hooks on Joshua's chin.
That was the end of it, yeah.
And that was the end of it. Game over.
Yeah. And is that because of Sky? Is Sky doing that? Is it the money thing? Is it just boxing, or is it because they get involved?
It's prize fighting, you know. It's boxing. It's a business. That's the best way to look at that. It's an actual business. You know, and that would be consistent through most of the weights.
So now we're seeing that, I suppose, with the whole Jake Paul thing.
Yeah.
Which is, for people even who are watching, we're all going, this is a circus.
Yeah.
It must be frustrating for people in a boxing club when they see that. Now, you know, I know you know it's a business and you know they're getting paid, but it doesn't do much for the sport.
Technically, it does nothing for the sport at all, you know, but I suppose you know, if you look closely at it, I suppose you have a lot of armchair followers of boxing or combat sports in general. You know, they're not particularly lovers of boxing. They might like the MMA stuff as well, or the UFC, and so you get people who just are interested in just how these sports are going. And of course the younger people nowadays, it's all on YouTube and so on. So Jake Paul's a very, very smart guy, you know. Like, he has to be commended for that. He's a very, very smart guy. You know, he offers ludicrous amounts of money to the likes of Mike Tyson, who has big, massive debts, and he's getting 30, 40 million, and he knows, look, 6 or 7 rounds, I'd tip around with this guy, and he's holding back with his punches, you know. And this is the problem. Do you
Yeah.
know? However, is it damaging boxing? I don't think it's damaging boxing per se. But what it is it's undermining the efficacy of boxing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's poor.
Because there is talk of an MMA. Is there MMA guys coming in and creating a league, a boxing league? Is that a thing?
Maybe there is. I know your man Dana White has already signed some boxers and he's starting to work in the background. Actually, he's a very, very good boxer from Ireland boxing. Callum Walsh is his name. And he actually is a good kid. And Manny Pacquiao's coach, Freddie Roach, is actually training him right now.
Right.
And so he's actually a very good kid. And Callum Walsh is his name. Yeah, and so Dana White, who was obviously heavily involved in the UFC, has sort of started to make moves into boxing because I don't think UFC is more worldwide appeal than boxing. I think boxing still holds a bit more higher sort of sway when it comes to money,
sort of mass appeal, more
TV
so,
rights, all that type of stuff. People will always sort of fall in behind the boxing. So whether it's ruining or not, I don't know, but I don't think it's having a positive. I don't think it's a positive reflection on the sport itself.
Yeah, because I mean, anyone who watches, like you watch your pros, but you know, a good amateur fight, you know,
Absolute top class. I've sat through hundreds, maybe 1,000 amateur fights now, where I 3 rounds of 2 kids going hell for leather.
Yeah.
You know, and a round of applause at the end of it. I've seen it even in my own little club. You know.
I think the big misconception as well is where everyone, the armchair is like 2 gladiators. We're looking for the knockouts and the brutal beatings, where amateur boxing isn't that.
No,
it's a sport.
Amateur boxing it's a sport and it's very, very strict. People need to realise that, you know, you're at an age and a weight. There's never any sort of, you're never misplaced where you should be. If you're 13 and you're weighing, say, 55 kg or 57 kg, well, that's where you're going in. That's your bracket. That's your weight. That's where you're going to be entered. You're going to be entered at that age and weight. So you're going to be meeting other kids, similar age, similar weight. You're not going to be meeting a guy 90 kg. 55 kg is your weight. That's where you're going. So everybody's equally matched. Now, within saying that, you're going to get 13 and 14-year-olds who are boxing since they're 7 or 8 years of age. They can only competitively box at 11, but they're training for 4 years before they box at all. Right. So by the time they hit 13 or 14, they're already boxing 7 years. So for a young kid coming in thinking, oh, well, I'm only 13 or 14, I'll start boxing, he's already 7 years too late. Do you know? And that's where you see the disparity. Do you know?
Yes,
so you're going to get a guy 14 years of age, and I have them. I have these kids that are training since they're 6 and 7 years of age, and now they're 11, 12, 13, 14, and they take your life. Do you know? So any new person starting into that, they're on a sort of an uphill struggle already, because they're to get to any sort of level, they need to be matching these guys.
So how do you find it then if a 14-year-old comes in and says, oh, like somebody watching this now could turn around and say, you know, I'd love to give boxing a go, I've always wanted to do it. Like, they can come and train obviously, but
absolutely.
Like in terms of now what you're saying, competing, if you're 14 and you're just coming in for the first time, hitting a bag, but the guy next door to you is 13 and he's been training for 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, have you a chance, literally?
Well, I put it this way, you always have a chance. You know what I mean? It's how motivated you are. Nigel Benn started boxing when he was 15 years of age.
Oh, complete from beginning.
And a lot of people in Athlone would know a heavyweight boxer I had, a big Kenny Okunbawa.
Big Kenny, yeah.
Started when he was 16 years of age.
That's right.
And Kenny went on to compete in 7 elite finals. You know, he lost 5, but he won 2. But that's the very highest level in Ireland.
Yeah.
So it can be done. But it just takes a huge commitment. It takes a huge amount of work and a huge amount of commitment. You will get there. You know, if there's guys over you, all you can do from them is learn from them. But you will get there. But it takes a lot of drive, motivation and commitment. But that's true for any sport.
That's true.
Do you know?
Yeah,
if you start a new sport like rugby, if you're 15, they have underage rugby as well when they're starting under 9s and under 10s or whatever they are. So they're already, you're meeting guys playing rugby 5, 6 years. Same with the soccer teams. They started under 8s and you're meeting kids kicking balls since they're 8 or 7. You know what I mean? Like, so you're always sort of on that uphill struggle. It's just how you apply yourself to it. It's like any sport. It's how you apply yourself to it. How you learn, how motivated you are. What sort of drive have you got in it? Have you got in yourself? And the thing about boxing is, it ticks all those boxes. You need huge motivation, you need huge drive, you need huge confidence, you need a huge will to win. And because it's very, very, very competitive.
That's good. And so that sets them up. They've got a great foundation for life, basically.
Absolutely.
To come in and do that.
Absolutely.
And the other thing as well, I noticed that, I remember the elites, we were talking about Kenny, and we used to watch it on the television. That's all gone. Like, why are RTE and people like that not promoting our to the people?
I know, and it's a huge bone of contention. You know, it went from RTE, they dropped it onto RTE2, Network 2, and then they dropped it all together, and TG Cahir were showing it. And the last Elite Championships, would you believe, was only last week, the finals, and it was on YouTube. So it's been broadcast on the TG Cahir YouTube channel. So we were one time, we were on the national stage.
That's right.
Absolutely, we were on the national stage. Then we dropped sort of down to lower sort of TV broadcasting. I shouldn't say lower, but TG Cahir wouldn't have the same audience than RTE would have.
No, and wouldn't have the budget.
Wouldn't have the budgets. And now they've dropped it, and they've dropped it down to the YouTube channel.
And this is all basically now because it's just rugby, soccer,
whatever
it is. It's the big money, but they're not. Nobody's promoting or bringing them along.
And look, let's call a spade a spade. RTE are very, very biased in the sports that they show. You know, they'll show the likes of hockey. You know, like how many hockey clubs are there around the place? Who plays hockey? I'm not being smart.
No, but compared to boxing,
compared to boxing and the level of competition in boxing, and like what I said, 352 boxing clubs, which means that's a huge amount of people. Who were either in a boxing club or currently in a boxing club or have young people competing in a boxing club. Okay, so they have a genuine bona fide interest in boxing. But we won't see it on TV.
No.
They'll show the hockey championships, they'll show cricket, they'll show other sports, all right, but for some reason they're biased against boxing. And I don't know why. You know, a lot of people don't understand why. Because the excitement of going to an elite championships and seeing two guys or two women, whatever the case may be, go through 3 rounds of complete and utter flat out boxing and athleticism trying to win a title. There's nothing more rewarding. You know, you get into that, you can feel it, you can feel the raw energy, the passion, people really who've trained all their lives for that night to try to win. And it's 1v1. It can't get any more interesting than 1v1 in the ring. You know, everything's working from the top of your head down to the bottoms of your toes. Every part of your body has to work. There's no downtime when the ball is down the other side of the pitch and you can take a breather. There's none of that.
Yeah, it's just...
you got to get in there and you got to give it everything. If you want to win that title, because the person coming at you, they're going to give everything. And they want to win that title. So, and I don't know why. I don't know why it has fallen so far down the pecking order with regards to what should be shown on TV with regards to sport. However, they'll show pictures of Katie Taylor, you know, when they're showing RTE Sport and the sports that they'll have coming up. You'll see Katie Taylor or Kelly Harrington, these people. But they never show them. Kelly Harrington is back. She boxed last week. She won another elite title.
Really?
She has 2 gold medals from the Olympics. Nobody showed it. Nobody showed a thing about it. It wasn't on the news. It wasn't anywhere. It was on social media news, but that's it. Our national broadcaster ignores this. You know, because for some reason the people who are involved in sport at that national level on TV broadcasting companies don't seem to be bothered with boxing.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's madness, isn't it?
It is madness. Very frustrating.
Yeah. So what would you say now to anyone watching this, that whether it's a parent that has a child that's interested or whether there's someone young watching this and going, I'd like to give that a go. What would be your advice to a young girl or boy, whatever age, to...
Yeah, give it a go. Give it a go. You're only young once. Why wouldn't you give it a go? Do you know, we don't always have to, you know, pigeonhole ourselves in with the popular sports that we spoke about. Give these things a go. See where it goes for you. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of people do these sports. You know what I mean? Like what I said, there's sports throughout every town and village in Ireland. Boxing's in every town and village in Ireland. Do you know, it's there. The competition is fantastic. The tournaments are amazing. You know, there's a huge amount of pride to be taken from it. You know, the level that you'll get to in boxing far outweighs where you'll get to playing with your local community team in GAA, or you might make the county or whatever. Them titles for us, we walk through county titles. We go into provincial titles. Usually we're looking to walk through those as well. We're looking to get to the national level and then on into international, where you'll be getting your green vest to box for Ireland. You know, there's no other sport around that can give you that. No other sport can offer you those different levels and where that sport can bring you. None. Not at that younger age. Nothing else can do that for you in Ireland. And so I'd say to people, if you're watching and there's young people watching and their parents saying, you know, my little fella or my little girl wants to do that, get them down, try it out, see what you think of it, and then make your mind up if you want to stay at it or not. But certainly don't give up the opportunity when you're a young person to go and try these things out, because it does unfortunately get a bit more difficult as you get older.
Yeah. So basically just come down, write to yourself, into the club, have a chat.
Absolutely.
See the place. And
go onto our Facebook page. All the information you need is there. You can contact us through Facebook. My phone number's there. You can ring the club. You can email us. Everything. All the information you need about the club is there. You know, don't be shy. See what you think, and hopefully in time people can weigh in behind us with our new project and get our new club off the ground, our new clubhouse off the ground.
Absolutely.
And we can, you know, we can give back to all these young people. All the young people are looking for is a place to train. It's not for me, it's not for anybody else, it's for children. Do you know what I mean? This is for children, young children coming up over the next 10, 20, 30 years. This is a premises for them to train. You know, that's all we're trying to do here. We're just trying to build a new premises for kids that have a place to go to. You know, try not to play a lip service. Oh, look at all these kids on the street. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. We're trying to give them something. We're trying to give them the building where they can put all their energy into a sport, where they can learn focus, they can learn teamwork, they can learn how to build their confidence, build their self-esteem, where they don't need to be acting in an antisocial way on the street.
Yeah.
You know, so as a community, let's just, if we can just see above rugby, GAA and soccer and say, hold on, there's other sports out there who are vital as well in the community and who actually work on that level of children, who are right down there that seem to be pushed aside by all these other sports because they're not favoured through one reason or another. These are the kids that come to boxing clubs. All we're looking for is a bit of support and a bit of help to build our new premises, and then listen, it's going to be there for years. You know, it'll be there
for
after,
the community.
Yeah, and it's for the community.
It's
in the community for children, and that's all we hope for, and that's all we try to develop, young people, and that's it.
Brilliant, Rory. Thanks so much. I'm sold. I'll be down with the gloves on. And thanks for coming in. And look, anyone watching this, go on to the Athlone Boxing Club Facebook and get involved, because it's a great club, and who knows? Yeah, who knows who'll be the next world champion.
Thanks very much.
Happy days. Thanks, Rory.
No problem.
That's brilliant.